Welcome to the video. Today we will debunk a common myth that consolidating multiple retirement accounts into one somehow increases compounding growth. We will explain why compounding depends on return rate, not account count, and explore the real reasons to do rollovers, costs, control, and access rules. We will also cover critical early access provisions, like the Rule of 55 and 401k loans. Finally, we will give you actionable steps to choose where to roll funds and test your understanding with quick quizzes. Let's begin. Here is the agenda. First, we clarify the myth versus the math of compounding. Next, we explain why rollovers really matter. Then, we detail access and liquidity rules like the Rule of 55 and plan loans. After that, we compare IRAs and 401 kiloseconds. We then provide a step-by-step rollover guide. We will also include quick quizzes to check understanding. Finally, we close with key takeaways and next steps. Before we dive in, this video is for educational purposes only and is not financial, tax, or legal advice. You should consult a qualified professional for guidance tailored to your personal circumstances. Plan provisions vary widely, and tax rules can change. Now, with that in place, let's move on to the myth itself. Compounding is determined by the investment's return rate and time horizon. The number of accounts does not affect the math. If the same fund and allocation are used, your total dollars grow at the same compound rate, whether split across 3 accounts or consolidated into one. Accounts are containers. The fund and asset allocation inside are what drive returns. With that foundational concept in place, let's look at why rollovers still matter. Consider 2 accounts that each hold the same low-cost index fund with identical asset allocations. Your combined balance compounds at the same rate whether the money is together or split across accounts. What changes outcomes are differences in return, expense ratios, advisory fees, asset allocation, and ongoing contributions or withdrawals. Taxes and plan rules can change when or how you can access the funds or incur penalties, but they do not alter the mathematical principle that the return rate on the investment drives compounding. Next, we will cover the real reasons you may want to roll over accounts. Rollovers matter because they can simplify your financial life by reducing the number of platforms and statements, which makes tracking and rebalancing easier. They also matter because old employer plans may have higher administrative costs and more limited investment menus. IRAs can often provide lower expense ratio funds and a broader array of choices. From an operational perspective, using a direct trustee-to-trustee rollover can prevent mandatory withholding and avoid the 60-day rollover deadline risk. Now that we know why rollovers matter, let's address access and liquidity rules that can steer your destination choice. Access rules are a major deciding factor. The Rule of 55 allows penalty-free withdrawals from your current employer's 401k if you separate from service in or after the year you turn 55. This generally applies only to that specific plan, and moving those assets to an IRA usually removes this option. Additionally, many active employer 401k plans allow loans or hardship withdrawals subject to plan rules. IRAs do not offer loans. Therefore, if early access or potential emergency liquidity is a priority, keeping or consolidating funds in the current employer's 401k may be advantageous. With that in mind, let's map the decision visually. This flowchart begins with the question of whether you are considering a rollover. The first branch evaluates whether early access is important. If early access is needed, the chart points toward the current employer's 401k due to the Rule of 55 and potential loan or hardship features. If early access is not important, the next branch asks about lower fees and broader investment choices. If those are priorities, the path leads to an IRA. There are also checks for high plan administrative fees and a preference for simplicity and consolidation, which both tend to push toward the lower cost, fewer accounts option. The flow ends with 2 clear destinations. Choose an IRA or choose the current 401k. It also reminds you to use a direct trustee-to-trustee rollover. On the left, IRAs typically offer broader investment menus and often lower expense ratios, but they do not allow loans. Penalty-free access generally begins at age 59.5, with specific exceptions. IRAs can simplify consolidation of multiple old plans. Roth IRAs do not have required minimum distributions during the owner's lifetime. On the right, current employer 401k plans may allow the Rule of 55 penalty-free withdrawals after separation in or after the year you turn 55. and they often offer loans or hardship withdrawals, subject to plan rules. Some 401k plans offer institutional share classes with competitive costs, and ERISA protections can be stronger, though menus may be limited. As of 2024, Roth 401k accounts also no longer have lifetime required minimum distributions for the owner due to legislative changes. Now, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Quiz time. Which factor determines compounding growth for your total retirement balance? Option A, the number of accounts you hold. Option B, the investment's rate of return and fees. Option C, the color of your account dashboard. Option D, the number of times you check your balance. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Compounding is driven by the investment's return and impacted by fees. The number of accounts does not affect the compound growth if the investments are the same. Now let's move into a practical step-by-step approach to rollovers. Here are the steps. First, inventory all your accounts with balances, fees, investment options, and specific plan rules. Second, decide your priorities, choosing between lower fees and investment flexibility versus early access and potential loan features. Third, pick the destination. An IRA tends to excel at flexibility and cost, while the current employer 401k may be better for the Rule of 55 and loans. Fourth, request a direct trustee-to-trustee rollover to avoid withholding and the 60-day redeposit requirement. Fifth, reinvest promptly according to your target asset allocation and set a rebalancing cadence. Sixth, update beneficiaries and confirm the transfer completed correctly. Next, let's view a timeline of key ages and milestones. This timeline highlights critical ages. At 50, catch-up contributions may begin, allowing higher deferrals. At 55, if you separate from your employer in or after the year you turn 55, you can access that employer's 401k penalty-free under the Rule of 55, subject to plan rules. At 59.5, penalty-free withdrawals generally become available from IRAs and most retirement plans. At 62, early Social Security benefits may begin. At 65, Medicare eligibility starts. At 73, traditional retirement accounts generally require minimum distributions under current law. Understanding this schedule can inform whether an IRA or current 401k better aligns with your anticipated access needs. Next, let's see the math in a simple markdown example. Here is a simple mathematical demonstration using markdown. The compound growth formula is A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the n's. In scenario A, you have two accounts with the same index fund and a combined starting principal of $100,000, a 7% return, and 20 years. In scenario B, you have one consolidated account with the same principal, same return, and same time. In both scenarios, the end value is the same because the return rate and the time are identical. The number of accounts does not alter the calculation. With the math clear, let's quantify how fees can impact results over time. This table illustrates how fees can impact outcomes. Both options start at $250,000 with a 7% gross return. The low-cost option has a 0.04% expense ratio, while the higher-cost option has 0.8%. The net returns are approximately 6.96% versus 6.2%. Over 20 years, the low-cost path reaches roughly $960,000, while the higher-cost path reaches about $834,000. A difference of approximately $126,000. These figures are illustrative and assume consistent returns. Actual results vary. Next, let's do one more quick quiz focused on access rules. Second quiz. If early access through the Rule of 55 or the possibility of plan loans is important, which destination is typically preferable? Option A, IRA. Option B, current employer's 401k. Option C, taxable brokerage account. Option D, crypto wallet. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Early access via the Rule of 55 and the availability of plan loans or hardship withdrawals are features of employer 401k plans, not IRAs. Therefore, if early access or emergency liquidity is a priority, consolidating into the current employer's 401k often makes sense. Now let's consolidate everything into concise key points. The key takeaways are as follows. First, compounding depends on returns and costs, not how many accounts you have. Second, rollovers are about simplicity, fees, and investment flexibility. Third, access and liquidity rules may favor the current employer's 401k due to the Rule of 55 and possible loan features. Fourth, choose your rollover destination based on your priorities, lower cost and greater control or earlier access. Finally, use direct rollovers, reinvest promptly, and update beneficiaries. To wrap up, the number of accounts does not increase compounding. Investment returns and costs are what matter. IRAs frequently provide better cost and flexibility, while current 401k plans can be better if early access or loans are important. Align your rollover decision with your actual needs and constraints. In a moment, we will close with a thank you and a call to action. Thank you for watching. If this helped clarify the compounding myth and rollover choices, please like, share, and subscribe. We would love to hear your questions or experiences with consolidating accounts, choosing between an IRA and a 401k, or using the Rule of 55. Share your thoughts in the comments, and tell us what you want to see next.